So, guys, this is a special South Park review because I'm on vacation to Alaska and I'm stopping and this is Nevada, so I'm on my way to San Francisco. So, the current episode of South Park is called Dikin Baus, where Butters has a job at an ice cream place, at an ice cream parlor, and Carmen wants to join in on it. And what happens is that Butters does a really, really great job, and we kind of see that this is going to be a Butters and Cartman episode for the most of it. So Butters puts in a good word to get Cartman hired, and then like 2 hours into it, Cartman starts to be a little lazy. Like he takes his break early, he works from home. He says that I have to go early because of a mental health break, and that's like a serious kind of allegory for the millennial culture because there's a lot of people who say we should have mental health breaks and other things like that. And there's actually people who need that. And then there's actually people who just use it just to take advantage or is just generally lazy, like Cartman. So, because Cartman is intelligent and Cartman usually gets screwed over by his own intelligence because he doesn't think things through, what happens is that he tells Butters that he wants to open his own business because he's like, since the manager of the ice cream parlor is sitting on his ass doing nothing and he's also the owner and they kind of just have the business, they kind of just know how to work as workers, why not open your own place? So Cartman just gets money and he opens a restaurant called Dikin Baus where he turns like the hot dog house that he lives in. Because for those who don't know, what happened to Cartman is that his mom got into real estate because they needed extra money, and then what happened was Cartman just didn't want her to leave and leave him to take care of himself, like go home, make sandwiches, cook, and whatever. That they actually had to move into a hot dog house because he did whatever he could to sabotage her. And now Cartman is like, you know what? Well, I can also use this Dick and Boss business that they're creating, and they're funding with the money from Butters to create his own like fantasy house. Like he has like a mermaid grotto, he has a water slide, and he also encourages the construction people to and contracted workers that, oh well, if it's too much work, we'll leave work early. We're gonna call it, just lazy Wednesday or whatever like that. So, Butters gets screwed during the entire episode. It's he doesn't have a paycheck. He has zero balance. He's working extra hours, and also another thing that's talked about is how like the child labor laws are kind of violated because the child labor laws are kind of violated because Butters, because you can't hire 9-year-olds, and that's their age group. But also too, I think that if you're a kid in the United States, you're not supposed to work more than 20 hours. So maybe what that's an allegory to, like how there's some millennials who play video games all day for money, and if their parents are okay with it, then they make money. But there may be YouTubers who do that, and they're a YouTube talent, they're creating content or they're doing live streams, and they're technically kids making an income. So technically they're kids making money by violating child labor laws. But also too, it's not that hard to find businesses where they hire their kids, or parents get lazy and they're like, you know what, I want my kid to work, so I'm going to talk to the owner to pull this favor, or I'm going to pay the kid under the table, or well, it's a family business, so I don't care about I don't care about legal laws. I'll just hire my kids since I don't have to pay them, or I can pay them below minimum wage. So it could be an allusion to that. But I really think that the big thing that happens in this episode is that Butters allows himself to get taken advantage of. And I think that as we've seen through his character development, he went from being naive to just, okay, well, now I screwed myself, but now I gotta solve my problem because I allowed Cartman to screw me. So later in the episode, Butters is able to take the Dick and Balls business, open it, and be a one-man employee. an owner and then actually be able to sell it. And he made so much money off of it that, what happens is that, the mayor and other people in town are saying, Eric, you're a hero, because they think that it's Eric's idea, because Eric Cartman really just like puts himself in the front of it. And when Butters is doing the actual work, and that's true about workplaces. Like, I remember when I used to work out of college, we shoveled snow during the worst blizzard that ever happened in Hamden in over 100 years. But our boss's boss, this old fat guy who just did nothing all day. He got credit for putting us to work, and then also too that he would do something like, this is a state job, and I have no problem saying this, that he would kind of sit down and have breakfast with us at the diner when you're not supposed to do that. So that way, the state of Connecticut is paying for his breakfast when he's not really an employee in our union. It's just a way for him to say, what, I want to quote unquote just work with the guys. And he would do things like, okay, if we're gonna cut down. We're gonna do things like, what, we're spending too much money at the diner, budget cuts, so everybody bring their own like bag lunch or whatever, or let's all go to the cafeteria since it's all it's all like free since it's all free and whatever. So he did a lot of that, but it was a typical example of how there are people who there are the Cartmans of the world that will take credit for like the hard workers, and they're not there to help out. They're there to kind of screw people over. And but the good news is that Butters does enough to be successful. And I think the lesson is that when you are that worker, it's your job to almost work so hard that you have the managerial skills, you have the business sense, and you have the common sense to have the upper edge. It's just like they say in The Art of War that, if you are always nice, you're easily conquered. If you're kind and mean, you are never conquered. But if you're like a maestro and you get skilled in every single area and you just know the games that people play, what happens is that usually you get screwed, but then you learn from being screwed not to get screwed again. Like that's definitely been my career in filmmaking, and that's also kind of been a lot of other things in my life. The education's out there to make sure you don't get taken advantage of. And the other thing is that people like Cartman, the lazy types, they're only successful short term. And what happens is that Butters now turns Dikin Baus into a big franchise and something that's very marketable. So he sells like the chain to Asian markets because Asian countries are trying to be more like Americanized. So he sells it to the Asian countries, and he makes enough profits from it to move Cartman and Leanne back into their home, because obviously you can't sell a house, you can't sell like a restaurant if it's if people are living in it. I mean, and if it's up to code, people can live in it. So he's like, okay, well, I thought about that. So he got Eric back into his house, and Eric's kind of miserable because he doesn't have the water slide, he doesn't have the mermaid grotto, he doesn't have everything. And then Eric's concept for Dikin Baus is that it's a place where workers can dick around and whatever, because don't we want to have that? But so now he kind of goes from a downgrade, the hot dog place, to an upgrade, which is it being like Cartman Land, like the amusement park he always wanted, back to a downgrade. And I think what I like at the end is that his mom kind of just like brings him upstairs and says, here's your room and whatever. And Cartman's crying and whatever, and she ignores him because I think that she kind of knows that this type of, going from high to low, rags to riches to rags, because Cartman doesn't deserve the riches, he deserves the rags, is what he deserves. So Cartman's miserable, Butters is successful, and then Butters gets the credit and all that. So, Cartman ultimately pays for his behavior. So like they said, this is a classic Cartman episode and a Butters episode. But I think that it's a message for a lot of people that no matter what you're in time, yes, there will always be workers and workers and business owners that take advantage to make themselves successful. Either managers who will break the laws that they want to break because other people don't know about it, or workers that will say, okay, we should have these rights and whatever, to like mental health days or whatever days. And then there's also people like who are successful in business because they know how to take advantage of the right people. But in the end of the day, two things happen. People allow themselves to be taken advantage of nonstop, and that becomes their lives. And I've definitely been in that, and I've stopped doing that. But there's also people who learn from when they get screwed over how to play that game to be successful. Example in my life, when I used to work at a college, and this is a bad thing, you shouldn't do what I did, is that when I used to work at a college, I used to work the night shift. I did a great job, and then what happened was that this is Southern Connecticut State University. I'm just going to publicly shame them. Is what happened was I had a coworker on third shift who would come to work drunk, messed up on drugs. He would just expose himself, pee by dumpsters. One time he almost assaulted me, and I was told that I need to kind of just not report anything because people can easily spread rumors about me when all these things are true. So I went on to the second shift because that was like the lazy shift, and I was there for like 6 or 7 years just not really doing anything, and I kind of felt kind of happy that I got away with not doing a lot of work for like 7 years, being paid. Imagine like 7 years of not really doing any work. It's kind of like a treat, because I was kind of like, you know what, since you guys are going to screw me over and make me do the work of somebody that should not be here, and the union's going to protect somebody who's an alcoholic and dangerous, why not? I should lower my standards as well. I shouldn't be hired to do the work of people who don't do their jobs, and the union shouldn't protect people who should not be protecting people like that when they do. It's workplace politics. But I learned also too that I work at a different job now, and there are some things that I gotta learn to be successful. Maybe work harder to save my money, invest in the stock market, work hard to advance myself, work hard to just keep moving forward and whatever, or find the jobs where it's more pay, less work. So it's definitely an episode about just how we're very unethical in the workplace, and unfortunately what happens in the American workplace, and this is true about other countries, is it's all about taking advantage of people. You take advantage of the workers to make sure you get a good profit. You take advantage of people to get all the credit that you can so you look good, and then also you take advantage to make sure you get a good profit and whatever. But ultimately, when you are one of the people that work hard and you have a lot of morals and you get screwed, you have to change things around to make sure, you are not the person that gets screwed over. And it's completely on you. And if you don't know what to do, you have to get the education, and the education is out there. When I worked at a job called Conway years and years ago, same situation. I was bullied. The job was robbed by its own security guards. There was sexual discrimination. If you were a woman, you got vacation time and the jobs that gave you bonuses. If you were a man, you got all the overtime, and you were easily fired because you didn't have good TNA that the boss liked. But when I left that job, I wrote so many nasty reviews, and they were all honest and truthful, and my manager didn't last that long. But what I learned is that I wish I left that job sooner. I wish I kind of educated myself on how to find better jobs. And also I wish I didn't listen to my dad, because he had some bullshit advice that when people treat you badly in the workplace, you just need to grit your teeth and have that good old American work ethic. And as we learned, that when you just work hard without thinking about where you're going or what you're getting out of it, you're just the same thing as a very naive slave. You have to think about your work ethic and where it's taking you. You don't just like aimlessly work for people, especially for people who disrespect you, or especially for people or fake friends like Hartman or whatever that try to that try to take advantage. You're accountable for getting taken advantage of, and ultimately, sometimes the people that take advantage of you, they may not be that smart. They may just know how to be street smart or know how to play certain people, but they don't know how to play the bigger game. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye.